বিরুৎ জাতীয় presents Jibber Jabber in the Jungle. বিরুৎ জাতীয় boss পরন্তপ চক্রবর্তী talks to Canadian lunatic Brian Godzilla Salmi about the RIFF and RAFF rebellions, Volume 1.
Hey Brian,
Ketan?
what brings you to India?
Fate, I hope.
Interesting.
I was living in Istanbul
Right.
and didn't want to deal with another 5-month rainy winter and decided I was going to finally come to India. And a friend of mine told me that I probably really should.
Right.
They sent me a YouTube clip, a video from a Canadian talk show where a very well-known Canadian talk show host was interviewing Ahmed Khan.
Yeah, Amir Khan.
Amir Khan,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
My apologies, Amir. Talking about various different things about India. And one thing that became very apparent was that there are something like 200 million English first people here.
Yeah.
And that Bollywood films tend to be hopeful, whereas Western films tend to be not so hopeful.
Okay.
And I was looking for a publisher for Riff and Raff, which is a book about hope. So I figured I'd take my chance and come here.
Right.
Yep.
And okay, so why do you write Riff and Raff in the first place?
That's an interesting. It's a bit long. I'll try to truncate it as much as possible. In 1999, my sister gave me a copy of a very, very popular kids book. I won't mention the title of it because I absolutely hated it.
Right.
The only reason I could keep reading it is just to see if I could hate it more on the next page. And when I finished it, I vowed that I would write a better kids book than that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be as successful as that one is. But that was 1999, 2000, and I abandoned the project for about 11 years. But then the Arab Spring came along.
Right.
And I'd been political all my life and had moved to Montenegro from Canada, where I was not involving myself with politics whatsoever. So I guess it was a bit of a Jones, and I saw what was happening in the Arab Spring, and I thought I would bring the Riff and Raff project back to life and turn them into activists who save the world, try to keep doing my part to make a better world.
Interesting. And you want to tell us more about Riff and Raff? I mean, how it's structured, what's the story like?
One of the things that I'm trying to do is I'm really trying to reach kids who either don't like reading or hate reading or don't read at all.
Right.
And I think that's becoming more and more.
I mean,
of
and
a
it's also
problem.
generational, isn't it? I mean, these days we're more on gadgets and stuff like that. So, you know, mobile phones, iPod, that sort of thing. So, Kindle,
I think people are reading less and less.
Right.
I think that's rather evident. And one of the things that I discovered at some point when I was researching a story is that boys are reading even less than girls are. And I think that's primarily because a lot of the books that are written for kids and for young adults are written by females. And certainly that portion of the industry is dominated by females. So what I've done was I've come up with an idea. A number of ideas to make the stories more approachable for people who don't like reading, and especially for people who read on their phones.
Right.
So what I've done is I've made the books very, very easy to read, particularly for people who read on their phones.
Right.
Now, one thing I noticed even when I was an avid reader before my eyes started going was that when I started a new chapter, I would skim ahead to see how long the chapter was. And if it was 40 pages, I might not start it before I go to sleep, so I would just
Right.
leave it. And if kids today see a wall of text, they're just going to walk away or run away from the whole thing. So all of the chapters in the book are really short,
Right.
usually never more than 1,000 words. So they can breeze through a chapter in a couple of minutes, and they've got a sense of accomplishment that I read a whole chapter.
Okay.
So that's one of the principal things. The other thing that I've done with it as well is every chapter title is either from a lyric of a song from some kind of pop music, whether it's rock and roll or old stuff, new stuff, a whole mix of stuff, or it's either a lyric or a song title itself.
Right.
And the titles and possibly the lyrics are sampled or referenced in the chapter itself. So when you go through a chapter and you go through the arduous task of reading 700 words, you get a reward at the end of
Right.
it by you find the track listing that tells you every song that was mentioned and referenced in the chapter. So you can take a break and you can go out and search it on YouTube and discover some new music. The whole idea being that I want the kid who is the worst reader and the kid who hates reading the most to end up going to school one day and saying, I'm reading the coolest book.
Right.
And his friends will say, "You're reading a book?" And he'll say, "It's not only the coolest book. Listen to all this great music I've discovered with it." Yeah, so that's the
okay.
general idea.
Brilliant.
Make it easier for them. The other thing is also, it's very fast paced. You'll know this that I don't do a lot of description in
Right,
there.
right.
So it's all plot, it's all drama, it's all comedy, it's all philosophy. It's fairly deep, it's fairly light, and it moves around very quickly. So you don't get bogged down for pages and pages of people giving you a description of their meal.
So, Brian, who are RIFF and RAFF anyway?
Riff and Raff are two 15-year-olds. They're best friends. 15-year-olds. Riff is a poor white trash boy. His name
Right.
is Riff because he plays guitar, rock and roll guitar, Riff. Raff is short for Raphael. She's an artist. She's 15 years old also. She's not poor, certainly not poor white trash because she's not white. She's a black girl. But she's from lower middle class family. Raff is short for Raphael because she's an artist. I got the names. Riff Raff means an unsavory character where I come from. And when me and my best friend were growing up in the housing projects when we were quite young, we were always in trouble with the authorities. I was in trouble at school, in trouble with the police, and my father used to call us Riff and Raff, so that's where the name comes from.
Very interesting. So, Brian, how does the plot line take off?
Well, as I said, there are three stories. The volume one is made of three different books. The first book is Stop the War, and in Stop the War, Riff and Raff, with the help of some friends, managed to prevent a nuclear war from happening.
Right.
The second one, they solve global warming. The third one, they end hatred. And there are several different subplots through all of them as well.
So, in Stop the War, we see that there's this discussion about religion that RAFF has with his father. And what do you say to that?
Well, I'm not a believer. I'm an agnostic. I won't say I'm an atheist because
Right.
I think everybody is an agnostic. Even the believers are agnostics. Nobody
Yes.
knows for sure.
Yes.
I don't believe for a second that there is a God or any gods, but there may be. I leave room for allowance in there. And one of the things that I'm hoping to do is I'm hoping to reach kids who get bombarded and browbeaten into being Christians by giving them one little stick that they can fight back with, which is the fact that the Jesus character is almost an identical carbon copy to the Egyptian god Horus. So in the scene that you're talking about, Raff is dealing with her father, and her father is a fundamentalist Christian, more or less based in the United States.
Yes.
And
I
he's trying to get her to go to church. And she basically says, "Listen, I'm not going to church with you. Jesus never existed. Here's my proof of it."
And that's where I wanted to go next. I mean, though you don't explicitly say it, there are sort of markers in the text which tell us clearly that it's based in the United States. Why did you choose that? I mean, some of it is obviously obvious, but still.
Well, having grown up in Canada, you can't help but being bombarded by American culture, and it's such a heavy influence on us, and it's such a heavy influence on the world, frankly. You know, I haven't lived in Canada for more than 11 years now, and everywhere I've lived across Central Asia, Central Europe, everybody's fascinated by American politics, American culture. It just dominates. They take up so much of the world's bandwidth that that was just a natural place for me to set something. If I was going to try to reach kids, and that's primarily who I'm trying to reach with this, is kids, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 15-year-old kids who are about to make a decision as to whether or not they're going to become normaloids or they're going to join the resistance to try to make a better world. I was targeting the States and using pop culture that's familiar to American kids.
Do you envision a more adult readership for RIFF and RAFF?
I can see adults loving the book. I think there's a huge crossover potential. As a matter of fact, adults may end up loving it more than the kids do, particularly people my generation. You know, I'm 55, actually 56 today.
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much. In my wildest dreams, what I'm hoping is that people my age or people who are older than Riff and Raff are will read the book and love it so much that they'll buy it and give it to their 15-year-old nephews or nieces or kids. But yeah, I think there's a huge crossover potential there. But it's also somewhere, I think there's a bridge that can be formed between the older generations and the younger generations, because quite often you don't have a great deal of conversation between generations, at least where I come from. So this is someplace where the two can meet and form a stronger bond.
Okay. 14 or 15 books of Riff and Raff, right? You've got the entire thing in the bag
But,
there.
but it's not 14 or 15 riff and raffs. No, there's
No.
only 3 riff and raffs that have been written.
Right.
I signed a contract for 10. I've got skeletal outlines for another 7.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So riff and raff can continue. Yeah, I mean if it's popular.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's how. But the 3 stories are final.
The 3 stories in volume 1
They're
are done.
ready.
Yeah, but there's as I said, there's I've got skeletal outlines for another 7 riff and raff books, but one at a time. Let's get this one up first and
Yeah,
see if it's wildly popular, and see if people demand to see some more riff and raff stories out there.
And why would you think people would read Riff and Raff?
I think it's fun. I hope it's fun.
Okay.
I try to almost everything I write. I try to be fun. I almost always have a very serious message and stuff that I write, but I also try to make it a lot of fun, and I try to make it funny as well. You know, when I walked away from a career as an activist from
Yes,
Greenpeace
yes.
and started going into journalism, which is something that I went to school for originally, one of the reasons I did so was because I wanted to find a new approach to getting a message across to people. And what I quickly discovered is the power of laughter, especially when it comes down to politics. And one of my favorite authors of all time is Mark Twain,
Right.
who had a brilliant, brilliant quote. He said, "Against the power of laughter, nothing can stand." So that's where satire comes from. There's a lot of social satire in Riff and Raff. I think if people are laughing, then they're going to keep reading.
So, other than Twain, who are the big influences on your writing?
The biggest would have to be Hunter S. Thompson. Hunter S. Thompson was a very famous American journalist who invented something called gonzo journalism, which I instantly understood as soon as I read the first paragraph of what he was doing. So he's undoubtedly the biggest influence. Twain, right up there. Another American journalist named H.L. Mencken was a big influence as well. On the kids stuff, as you know, I've got a couple of kids book series for kids that are younger than Riff and Raff. Dr. Seuss would be the big one as well, and so many others as well.
Right.
But it's not just writing influences; it's influences of people who have done things that I've admired. Because before I became a writer, I was an activist. So I was born in '63, grew up through the '60s and the '70s, but was basically looking in the rearview mirror of the protest movement, the hippie movement of the '60s, and I drew a lot of my my personality and my character from the stuff that was being put out by organizations like the Yippies. Being from Canada and having been born with skates on, I tend to think in hockey terms quite a bit. So a book is like a hockey game. 3 periods. In the first period, you write the book, whether it wants to be written or not. And sometimes it really, really does not want to be written at all. It took me about a year to write volume 1 of the Riff and Raff Rebellions. In the second period, you get the book published. 8 years. It's taken me 8 years to get this book published. 8 long, grinding, grueling years, sometimes soul-destroying, filled with brawls. One-on-one brawls, line brawls, bench-clearing brawls, brawls with the fans in the stands, blood and guts everywhere, old-time hockey. This is where a lot of writers never survive. They never get through the second period. I've managed to. Third period is selling the book. And this may be the hardest, longest, ugliest period of it all. But this is when you win or lose the game. And I'm playing to win this one. Preferably in regulation time. But if I have to go to quadruple overtime, so be it. I'm going to win this game. So the book is now available for sale at riffendraff.com, where you will find everything you need to convince you to part with your hard-earned money. On the site, you can read the first book, Stop the War, for free, or download it. Remember, the book is a trilogy, so you get the first one absolutely for free to see if you're actually going to like it and will commit your money to books 2 and 3. On the site, you'll find other things. You'll find synopses of all 3 books, samples from them, picture galleries, videos, a complete track listing of the 127 song soundtrack. What else will you find there? go check it out. RiffandRaff.com is where you'll find the book for sale. You'll find the book for sale in 3 different versions. Two print versions. One full color, meaning you get full color illustrations inside. Full color illustrations, 3 full covers of all 3 books, full color, full page illustrations of all the major characters, and full color illustrations of all the major characters across the top of all the pages. The black and white version is the same, but obviously all those beautiful color pictures are black and white on the inside. Different prices. Those are being sold on the site through Shopify, so all your information is safe, all your credit card information. All major credit cards and PayPal are usable there. The third version, the third way to buy the book is the ebook. The ebook is also available on the website. That one's sold through Payloads, which is an arm of PayPal. So again, your information is all safe. You can buy the book just about anywhere because we're selling it through Lulu, which is a print-on-demand service, and they link through 37,000 bookstores around the world, including all the usual suspects, Barnes & Nobles, Chapters, Amazon, but you're going to pay more for that. If you're really, really in the habit of giving your money to Jeff Bezos, when you could keep it in your pocket instead, by all means, go give the richest man in the world some of your hard-earned money. But if you're so inclined, honestly, you're probably a special kind of stupid and you're not going to like Riff and Raff anyway, so maybe you should buy someone else's book, yeah? That's it. RiffandRaff.com is where you can find it. I'll be back. There's a blog on the site as well. The blog will be, and the site will be continually refreshed, new material added all the time, so you can check back off. And you can also subscribe there. You can contact me via email there as well. So that's it. I got to get back out on the ice. Hope you enjoy the book. Thanks. Ciao.